Your home isn't the only place that needs a good spring clean and organization sesh, and it's somewhere you probably spend a lot of time. To get started, I headed to the Dollar Tree for some supplies. The first project I wanted to do was to deodorize and vacuum out my car. I took an Old Spice shaker and filled it with some baking soda that's easily found at the Dollar Tree and other similar stores. Then I added about 50 drops of my two favorite essential oils, which are orange and lavender, and shook the container to incorporate them. I sprinkled the baking soda mixture on the carpet in my car and allowed it to sit for about 30 minutes. Then I vacuumed up all the baking soda, dirt, and debris for a clean and great smelling interior. The trunk of my car always gets really disorganized, so the first step in tackling that project was to take the container with a lid, and that was the perfect place to store my ugly jumper cables. The flexible bins worked great for storing my reusable grocery bags and my kids' soccer things. Now the trunk is organized and the space is really optimized. I always like to make sure that my car is stocked with essentials like a first aid kit, over-the-counter pain medication, hand cream, chapstick, and more, and these mesh laundry bags come in handy. There's plenty of room for all of the essentials, they zip up really nicely, and I was able to fold it so it fit perfectly in my glove box. For a natural air freshener, I used some wooden clothespins and added some orange essential oil to the pins, then clipped them to the air vents, and it filled my car with a nice orange scent. I used this plastic organizer that has different compartments to store loose change and some other loose items like hair rubber bands. I then stored that container in the door of my car for easy access. Moving to the back seat, I installed this over-the-seat organizer to hold my kids' books, water bottles, sunglasses, snacks, and any of the other things that are usually scattered across the back seat. To continue keeping the back seat clutter and trash-free, I hot glued some Velcro to the bottom of this blue bin and placed it in between my kids' car seats on the top of the seat protector that I made. Now they can throw their trash in there, and it's also super cute.
Do you ever get frustrated like I do going to the store? You just run out of trunk space. Well, I got a solution. I'm going to measure the width of the trunk, and I'm also going to measure the height and the depth. First thing I'm going to do is grab a piece of scrap plywood that I got. This is perfect. It's 3/4 inches. It's going to work out great, nice and strong. I'm going to measure across 36 inches, which is the same width of my trunk, and I'm going to use a straight edge to make a line across there. I'm also on the line going to measure the depth, and I'm going to put a mark there also, and another line straight across. Using my skill saw, I'm going to cut it all the way across, and I'm going to have my board ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and take this and cut off the last bit of it to make sure that it's 36 inches wide. Now I need 4 legs, and each of these need to be 15 inches. So I'm just going to take a regular piece of 2x4 and cut all 4 legs out. I'm going to sand the edges, get rid of all those splinters, and then I'm going to grab some 2.5-inch hinges. These packages are great. They come 2 inside each one, so I just need 2 packages, and they come with all the screws. I'm also going to pre-drill all the holes and put those in. I pre-drill because I don't want to split the end of the board when I put the screws in. Once I do that, I'm going to come in on all 4 corners of my plywood, and again, pre-drill, get all those done, put the board back on, and hinge it on there with the screws. And look at that, that's exactly what I want. I'm going to do all 4 corners. As you can see, they all flip down. That's another key to this. I'm going to flip it back over, lay it on its back, and what I'm going to do is grab some of this cheap mat that I got, and I'm going to cut it to size, but I'm going to cut it with a few inches over on each side. Flip that over, turn it upside down, and then put my shelf that's going to be upside down on it also. And I'm going to take a stapler with some good staples on it. I'm just going to flip that extra inches or 2 that I have and staple those down all the way around. Now when I get to the corners, that corner is going to bunch up too much, so I'm just going to cut a little bit off, and then it'll flip over and it won't be too thick, and again, staple those. Now, the one thing I've got to make sure of is when I get to the legs, I want to make sure that I cut that excess off so that when the legs flip up, they're straight on the plywood and they're not bunched up. See, just like that. Next step, I'm going to take it to the trunk and I'm going to put it in place and make sure it works. Pop it up, Make sure the legs are straight. And look at all this. I can put all my groceries in there, everything, and not worried about anything getting crushed because now I've got extra room. Watch this. I can go ahead and put anything I need on that top shelf. Another great thing about it is it's going to keep it hidden. Keeps the sun off it during the summer and any peeping eyes that might look in the back of my trunk. And when I'm not in use, I can just flip those legs back up and it sits flat right inside my trunk. This thing was so easy to make out of a 2x4, some hinges, and it just gives me all that extra trunk space that I need. I hope you like this easy and simple traveling trunk hack as much as I did.
hula hoop from Five Below. So I'm gonna take this first one, place it there. We're gonna do the same thing to a second one, and we're gonna place this in an opposite motion. We're gonna place this on either end again. Just take our zip tie, and we're gonna keep the pointy end towards the surface. We're gonna just snip off our ribbon, and now it's time to create the main portion of our bow. So this is non-wired ribbon. It is a little bit different to use as it doesn't hold its shape, but after making about 3 to 5 loops on either side, we're gonna have the perfect bow, and that is good enough for me. Let's finish our final loop. To secure our bow, we're gonna use a piece of wire. Take our tails that we pre-cut and just tuck them underneath our bow. Twist it secure. We can just secure that right on top of the zip tie and tie that wire together. We're gonna just lift up the greenery we've already worked in, tuck it underneath, and use another zip tie to keep that in place.
Just what I need for my latest project, hula hoops. Take some metallic paint that's made for plastics. I'm going to paint these gold. Now you're going to want to get some kind of a clear sealer spray with a light coat of the glaze. Right here, we're going to drill a hole in each side. I'm going to put one hoop inside the other and try and line up my holes where I have drilled. And I'm going to go outside and push all the way through, and then I'm going to push it through the next one. So I have it through 2 hoops. There we go. I have it through all 3, and then before it slips back off, I'm going to put a nut on that. And when I paint these, this will get painted also. I'm going to take a dollar store decorative cake tray and put a small hole in it. It's on high temperature, and I'm just going to put it right in the middle of there. And that is probably all we need. And now I'm going to try and put this right over top of that. Take some Gorilla Clear Grip contact adhesive to secure the plate right here to my hula hoop. And I'm going to put a generous amount wherever these hoops meet. I have just hung it from my garage door with some wire. So now I can go to work on the easy part. The construction of this was the hard part.
bowl from the dollar store, I'm gonna place it upside down on a wood round. Then I'm gonna surround the bowl with wood beads. I found these strings of beads at the dollar store. Place a bead of glue around the bowl and then attach the beads. Once the glue is completely dry, I can pull the bowl out of the center. Now I picked up another smaller bowl at Dollar Tree. I am gonna place this on the bottom of the wood round to create a pedestal. Now I'm gonna grab a larger wood bead and just fill the holes with some air dry clay to create a solid round ball. Give it a coat of spray paint. With everything dry, I'm gluing the larger bead to the bottom of the glass bowl. Then I can just place this bowl right on top of that pedestal.
I have this area in the front of my house that I want to beautify, so I grabbed a bowl from the Dollar Tree and put it over to make sure it fits. Then I went to Home Depot and grabbed some spray foam. Next, what I'm going to do is put the bowl down on a garbage bag, and I'm going to grab the spray foam and start covering all the bowl up. And we're going to go layer over layer. Now, this took about 3 cans, but I want to make sure before I put the next layer on, that's a little bit dry to the touch. Once you get it on, you want to give it about 24 hours. The next step is we got to carve the foam. Now you're going to shape this all over. Next step, I'm going to pour some water into a bucket. I'm using Cemental. What we're going to do is mix it. You want to be able to shape it and use it almost like a clay on top of the foam. Go ahead and just start adding it to the foam and just keep smoothing it on. For the second layer, I made it a little more runny. Just go ahead and smooth it in. If it looks a little rough, you can grab a chip brush, dip it in some water, and then you can start smoothing out the concrete that you put on. Now let it dry, and then I took some black paint, watered it down, and I'm going to add a little bit of color to the rock. So I'm going to add some brown to it also. You can go with any color you want. Now I'm ready to cover up the pipe that I want to have hidden.
Pick up 1 or 2 clear plastic bowls from Dollar Tree. Take a wood burning tool to create a hole in the bottom of the bowl. Take a light kit from Amazon and thread the socket through the hole. Make sure it's secure and add a light bulb.
Head to your local dollar store and pick up a clear plastic bowl, a metal flower vase, a floral foam square, and some faux flowers. Pull a wood candle lid from a used candle and remove the rubber ring. Spray paint this candle lid, the clear plastic bowl, and the metal flower vase. Use a strong adhesive and glue the candle lid to the bottom of the painted metal vase. Glue the painted bowl to the top of the candle lid. Give the entire footed pedestal bowl a light coat of white spray paint. Put some hot glue on the 4 corners of the square florist foam and glue it to the bottom of the bowl. Take pieces of faux greenery and stick them in and around the base. Next, take some bunches of faux flowers, stick the separated flowers into the florist foam. If you have any bare spots showing, fill those areas with a little green moss.
Check out these colorful bowls. You're going to turn it upside down. You're going to take that heat tool and just press down. And we're going to want to do that to a couple more of these. I'm just going to use this to trace. Start with one of the blue bowls and one of the clear ones. And I'm going to take some Gorilla Clear Grip. You're going to want to put this on and then let it sit. Make sure that you get this exactly right. One more blue bowl. Let that sit right there. You see how you can see the battery packs down at the base? I'm going to take some ivy. See how you can disguise that a little bit. Decided to add a few white poppies.
I got both of my bowls from the Dollar Tree. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're gonna glue them base to base. I'm gonna be using E6000 and I'm gonna be using my hot glue gun. So I'm gonna be using chalk paint, honeycomb, folk art craft paint. We're gonna be putting some baking soda in here. Next, we're gonna apply it to the bowl. All right, so we're gonna be using a stone colored Rust-Oleum textured finish paint. We are going to be grabbing about 4 of these candles from Dollar Tree. We are going to melt them. And I took the wicks out and I placed them where I wanted. I'm using skewers to secure it in place. I'm going to be adding my melted wax into this. And I'm actually going to be using a scented lavender.
First step is you're going to want to drill a hole for drainage, and I'm just going to drill straight into that hole in the middle. And then we're going to get our bigger bit, and I'm going to take a junk brush to bond with the bowl above it. I've got my first strand of beads, and I'm just going to take these one line at a time and just snip off the extra beads. And I'm going to repeat this process I've got the stone texture applied. Now it's time to go in with my black spray paint.
We are going to start with 7 of these bowls. You're also going to need some E6000. Just basically go around. You're going to place it on top. We're going to do this again. So I'm going to give these a little bit of time to cure. I'm going to be taking my E6000 and I'm going to go around the top of this, stack it on top, and we're going to do this one more time. I am using Dixie Belle Vintage Duck Egg Chalk Paint. So I'm actually going to use E6000 for this step. Line it up. And then we're gonna let that sit until it dries. And we are gonna trace around the inside of the hole that I created. You actually will not need to paint the underside, just the sides and the top. I'm gonna start with the bottom part, tilt that up. So we are going to take a solar light, placing it over, put the top part of our solar light, and it's gonna nestle right in.
You're going to need some dollar store solar lights. Flip the bowl upside down and we need to remove the label. Next, I'm gonna focus on the solar light. So we just take the stem off. We're not even gonna need that. You need to open up the solar light and pull out the tag so that the solar light works. Then you can place that back on and this part is ready to be used. This will be the base of our project. What I'll be using for this project for weight are these dollar store rocks. So I'm gonna be placing them inside. For the next step, I'm gonna place the solar light in top like this. I'll go ahead and add a few more rocks to this. So what I'm gonna do is add a little dab of hot glue on each corner, like so. I'm gonna take that bowl and flip it upside down and place it right there on top so it's centered. So just to show you, if I remove this out, you can see here, I would be able to pull this off and replace this easily with another dollar store solar light if this burns out at some point.
Run to Dollar Tree and pick up 1 large plastic bowl. Use a palette knife and drywall spackle to apply to the exterior of the bowl. Create a hole in the bottom of the bowl in the size of a light socket. Finish spackling around the hole. Add Dixie Belle's Slick and Stick to the inside of the bowl with a paintbrush. Take Modern Masters metallic gold paint, at least 2 layers. Sand the surface of the spackled exterior. Take Rub and Buff and buff into the surface of the bowl interior. Take a hanging light kit from Amazon. Add a light bulb of choice.
I ran down to Home Depot and picked up some beautiful flowers as well as 2 of these different hanging baskets. I removed the chain from both of the baskets and ended up removing the insert from one of the baskets. I opened everything up, placed my flowers inside, closed it again with the top frame on the top, lined up the holes, and added zip ties to hold everything together securely. My next step was to add the lights. These are solar powered lights, so they'll work great when I use them outside. Once it was all wrapped and ready, I was able to just let it sit in the sun for a few hours so that it could charge up.
I grabbed 2 hanging baskets and liners from Dollar Tree for this epic garden project. I unclipped the chains off of one of the baskets and placed the liners in each basket. Next, I used sharp scissors to cut a slit in the middle of each section and in the center hole at the bottom. Then I grabbed some petunias from my local garden center and carefully placed them into each hole. Planting from the outside worked best for me. I set it aside and repeated the same steps for the second basket. Next, I filled the center of each basket with potting soil and watered it. I gently placed one basket on top of the other and secured them together using 4 black zip ties. At that point, I decided to add in a few more flowers on the edge where the baskets meet.
I found one of these larger ones for $2.50. We're going to be using this vinyl tablecloth. So we're just going to gather up our fabric, going to take our scissors and cut it off. I'm actually going to string 2 zip ties together, and what we're going to do is gather our fabrics. So now that we have our little cluster of fabric secured, what we can do then is take our zip tie and tie it off. Cut the excess zip tie off. All I've been doing is just pulling a little bit, piece by piece, of the top until we have that nice pleating. So we're just going to snip all of that excess off, take our ribbon, I'm just going to take it and place it right here and secure it once more with a zip tie. Now it's time to add some flowers, dip them in our glue skillet, and I'm placing it on the inside of this. So now we cut off the individual leaves, and what we can do then is just poke them right in. So then we can take a few more of these wisteria stems. Now we have some of these beautiful pink roses.
The next time you are at your local dollar store, pick up some wire garden hanging baskets. Turn one wire basket upside down and place on top of a second basket. Secure together by using 3 zip ties that are placed equidistant from each other. Take a string of LED lights, hang the battery box inside the basket globe and connect to the top. Turn the lights on and wrap the lights evenly around the globe, both vertically and horizontally. Secure the end of the light string to the basket using a twist tie. Using a leafy garland of your choice, start to tuck and glue the different leaves to the wire basket globe. Now, remember all those chains and hooks that you removed from the baskets? Let's put them to good use. Reconnect these chains of different lengths to the hooks and tighten the hook back together using some pliers. If you have a porch swing, here is a fun way to hang the globes without drilling additional holes into your porch ceiling. Thread the stick through your porch swing ceiling hooks to create a horizontal rod. Time to break out of jail. That is, the Walmart ball jail. You also need some green reindeer moss. Start by spray painting the Walmart ball with moss green spray paint. Separate the large pieces and stretch out any chunks that are thick. With a can of general spray adhesive, spritz a small portion of the ball with the adhesive. Take a small patch of green moss and press it onto the ball in the sticky area. Press and hold for a few seconds to make sure it sticks. Continue to spray the ball and attach the green moss to the outside. Once you cover the entire ball with spray adhesive and moss, give the entire moss-covered ball an overall coat of the spray adhesive.
I'm going to grab me some solar lights. Next, head over to the hardware store. I'm going to grab me about 100 feet of nylon rope. First thing I got to do is blow up this dollar beach ball. Then I got to get out some Portland cement. Make sure it's not concrete, but cement. You want it actually really thin because we need to coat that rope. Now, on that beach ball, just start laying that rope. You're just going to start roping it all the way around. Once you get to the end, what you're going to do is tuck that last bit in underneath the rope. It's going to hold it in place. Then what we can do is move on to possibly adding a little bit more cement. Make sure you cover all that rope. We want it to stiffen up as best we can. Let it sit for a couple hours once we get it covered. Once it's covered, take a knife and just puncture the beach ball. Once we get it all the air out, just go ahead and pull it through one of the bigger openings between the ropes. Now, I want to clean it up. Took a little bit of a plastic fork and just clean up the edges. Don't want anything flaking off. Take a squirt bottle and start squirting all the string, and you're just going to powder it with the cement. Just keep doing that all over. What this does is make it thicker and strengthen it up. We're going to grab that dollar light again. Take out the bottom part. You're going to turn it around, put it in, and that's what's going to stick into the ground. Go ahead and put it right into the ground, right in the area you want to put it, and then you're going to take your string orb and you're going to put it right over the light, right in the middle, and lay it on down.
First things first, grab one of these dollar store or Walmart plastic balls, and then what you're going to do is you're going to gather the fabric. Pull that fabric nice and tight. Then you're going to grab a zip tie and secure the fabric at the top. Now we're going to cut off all of this excess fabric. I'm going to take the ribbon, place it at the top, and then take that zip tie and place it around the ball. Now we're going to take this greenery. We're going to start by breaking down a few branches. Now we're going to just dip this in our glue skillet and apply it straight to the fabric. So now, as you can see, we found a few adorable starfish as well as some seashells on my table. We're going to just dip these in our glue skillet and glue them right in place.
So I picked up a couple of these dollar store solar lights and I'm gonna take them apart. I just need that kind of crystal plastic part and the top. So I'm gonna cover the light bulb on the bottom and then I'm gonna cover the solar panel on top and then use a craft knife to cut around it so you get perfectly straight lines. This is a 7-inch basic embroidery hoop. So I'm gonna untwist this screw and put that aside. I'm taking them outside and I am adding a couple coats of a matte black spray paint. Make sure they're fully dry to the touch and now we can assemble. So first we wanna remove the painter's tape so that these solar lights work. On the clear plastic part, there are 2 little clips that help attach it to the top. And I'm just gonna take some floral wire and wrap it around each one of those clips. Wrap it nice and tight so it hugs the plastic closely. And then I'm able to screw the black part back on top and the wire is still gonna hang out either side. I picked this chain up at the craft store. It is actually in the jewelry section. I'm gonna thread the chain through the screw and tighten it about halfway. The solar light is going to hang from the inside hoop. So I'm just gonna use my floral wire and wrap it around that hoop. Now I can put this middle hoop, the smaller hoop, back inside the larger one. Now once everything's in place, I can tighten this screw.
Picked up 3 of these styrofoam balls when I was at the dollar store, and I'm gonna put one of these sticks in each of the balls. And there we go, it's as easy as that. So I wanna go ahead and paint each of these balls. And I'm gonna cover this in glue first. I've got a whole bunch of different colors of glitter here that I just picked up at the dollar store. Just lightly smush it in there. So I'm gonna take that glued side and just start rolling it. And I'm gonna cover this ball with these beautiful glass rocks. Give them a little spray with a clear top coat.
Grab a few bags of colored gems from your local Dollar Tree. Then place a sheet of parchment paper onto a cookie sheet and pour out all the gems onto it. Make sure they are all in an even layer. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees and place the gems inside for about 20 minutes. After the 20 minutes are up, pour all the gems directly into the ice water bath. You will hear them start to crackle and break. Let them sit for 5 minutes and then drain the water out into the sink. Now grab your plain picture frame and start gluing your crackled gems onto it. I use B7000 glue for this because it allows for some wiggle room before completely drying, unlike hot glue.
So I've already preheated the oven to 350, and we're gonna go ahead and bake these for about 20 minutes. Go ahead and fill up a pan or a bowl with ice and water. And dump these in here, and you can hear it. They pretty much immediately just fracture, and they're now ready to use. First, I'm gonna start by placing my glass pieces where I want them. I'm using Mixed Media Girl Artist Resin, and I actually want to pour this over my stones here. I'm gonna start off with white paste. I'm gonna spread it out a bit with my finger. I'm gonna get in here with the white metallic, and I'm gonna get in here with the pearl. A little more of just that flat white. So I'm gonna take some of this gold, and I'm gonna use my stick, and I'm gonna make these thinner lines. The last thing we need to do is take a torch and get rid of the air bubbles. Then we're gonna leave this cure.
Headed down to my local Dollar Tree. I'm gonna start with these glass beads. I'm gonna also head over and get some rubbing alcohol. Next, I grabbed this bowl, got it from Home Depot. I'm gonna grab some sand, start putting it in the bottom. So you wanna fill it up to where when you get your bowl, you're gonna kind of be level with the top and it has a firm foundation. Let's go ahead and start putting some more sand in so that it holds it in place to level it out. Make sure that bowl is firm. We don't want any spillage or that thing moving when we light it up. Go ahead and put the metal bowl in, and then remember those glass beads and start placing them all the way around. Take that rubbing alcohol and pour a little bit in there. Give it a little bit of a flame and it's gonna light right up.
So I went to the dollar store and I bought 3 bags of those vase filler gems. After sorting them, I washed them off using Blue Dawn and water and then laid them out to dry. I drew lines from the edge of the vanity to meet the mirror line. I applied a thin coat of mastic using a small notched trowel. Then the fun began as I pressed the gems into the mastic. I worked in small sections so the mastic wouldn't dry too quickly. Once I was done, I mixed the grout. I mixed 1 cup of grout to a half a cup of water. I applied the grout in small sections, making sure I was pushing it between each of the gems. I wanted to make sure that every spot was filled in between them. After 1 hour, I checked again, and yep, it was nice and dry. Using a large spun and plain water, I washed away all of the excess grout. I removed the painter's tape that I had placed on the top of the vanity and applied caulk, smoothing it out with my finger.
For this project, you're going to want to run over to your local dollar store and grab some glass gems. I painted the board a little bit of a white wash on the back just so it gives a good color for the backing. Now this all-purpose glue is perfect. All you got to do is lay it down, take the mirror after you got a few marks to center it, and place it on the board. Using the same all-purpose glue and a popsicle stick, and you're just going to put a little bit of glue on the back. Just slide them into place. You'll want to use non-sanded grout. Put your water in and start stirring it. Once you get it mixed pretty good, add your choice of paint color. Keep pushing it on there and get in between every glass gem. Once you got it down, grab your sponge, squeeze it out, not too damp, and you're just going to start wiping the top.
So I went to the dollar store and bought 35 bags of gems. They were really dusty, so I removed them from their little bags and washed them with mild soap and water. After washing them, I laid them out on a towel to dry. Several months ago, I completed a backsplash in my bathroom above the sink. People commenting on that post asked for the entire wall to be covered with gems. So here you go. I began by drawing a level line a little higher than the backsplash. Then I measured the height of that line from the floor and made marks on the wall and connected the line. Another comment on that original backsplash post was that I didn't create a pattern on the wall, so on this one I decided to draw some seaweed. After the pattern was drawn, I began to apply mastic inside the seaweed lines, filling them in with the different sizes of green gems. I worked on small sections of the wall at a time, working my way up the wall. Once I got to where I had put the original backsplash, I added the mastic and continued with the 3 different colors of gems. It was a little hard working around the toilet, but hey, with my skinny fingers, I made it work. I really liked using the different sizes of the green inside the seaweed. I think it gave it more of a texture and a really interesting look. When I finished applying the gems to the wall, I measured and cut a piece of chair rail and then fastened that to the wall with a brad nailer. I then took mastic and filled in the gap and then added more gems. I mixed my grout until it was the consistency of mashed potatoes. I applied the grout to the wall using a putty knife. And working in small sections, I added the grout and then removed the excess with a wet sponge.
Grab a 3-cube storage organizer from Walmart and start to assemble it based on the instructions. Cut some upholstery foam, then start to closely staple some fabric layered with batting to the top side of the organizer. Cut any excess material, then staple the material to the sides of the organizer. Add the upholstery foam and fit the material over the foam. Make sure to tuck, wrap, and staple the material around the foam on the other side of the organizer. Tightly staple all of the corners and the sides, and lastly staple the bottom of the sides.
I picked up an inexpensive woven rug at IKEA. I started by pulling the bins out of their storage area, and I'm going to lay the rug down flat and then put the bin on top to measure how much fabric I need. To attach the rug to the bin, I'm going to use hot glue. So I'm gluing it to the back, so the handle part of the bin is actually going to be on the back and this fabric is going to be on the other side. I'm going to wrap those sides of the rug around and secure it to the sides. Now I'm going to add a handle to this bin. So I'm going to poke a hole into the handle, one on each side, and stick the brad through. Punch a hole through the rug and through the storage bin, and then push that brad through. And then on the inside of the storage bin, I'm going to push the two ends of the brad down to secure it in place.
My daughter purchased a large television, and wouldn't you know it, her old TV stand was too small. All we really needed for this project was molding and an unfinished wooden top. I laid the board on top of the stand and measured to center it. Using my miter saw, I cut the molding to size. I pre-hammered finishing nails into the molding, added wood glue to the edge of the board, and hammered the molding into place. I continued to measure, glue, and nail molding to all three sides of the board. To secure the board to the old stand, I pre-drilled and added screws to the top, then filled the holes with wood fill. I also filled in the edges with wood fill. Once the wood fill was dry, I sanded it smooth. I applied one coat of a dark stain with polyurethane and allowed it to dry. Then I sanded using a fine grit sandpaper. To ensure the stand wouldn't fall over, I bought furniture straps. I measured and screwed one end of the strap to the TV stand, then measured and screwed the other end to the wall. Now the TV fits perfectly and my daughter can still use her old stand. I purchased a 3-cube storage unit and put it together in 10 minutes. Now for the bed frame. I painted two 1x12 inch pieces of pine to use at the sides of the frame. I needed something to elevate the mattress, so using 2x4s, I cut to size and used a Craig jig to make two U legs. I placed them at the head of the bed and in the middle of the bed. I laid a piece of 3/4 inch plywood on top of the U legs and screwed them into the plywood. I placed a storage unit at the foot of the bed and screwed that into the plywood. The painted 1x12s were attached to the U legs using brads. I then laid a 1x2 beside the plywood on the top and overhung the 1x12s and nailed them in place. Then I laid a 1x6 on top to hide the seam. At the foot of the bed, the storage unit wasn't as wide as the actual bed, and there were gaps on either side. Now that the bed frame was complete, it was time to make the headboard.